Hello, and we're doing things a little differently today. My name is Chuck. I've worked in quality assurance the past year and a half. I've worked in phone service for the past 4 years and customer service for the past, well, I think it's 15 years now. Time does fly when you're having fun. But one of the things I wanted to go through and discuss is just to give you an example how things are escalated. In I like to give real life examples because I know for me, real life examples really do help me figure out if I can go through and what I can do to save myself time. So, my darling wife went through and ordered something from one of her favorite retailers. She uh, was told she could go through and get a collector's edition of the item. Yes, it is the infamous Tears of the Kingdom. And she ended up going through and getting told, yes, we can pre order these. We will get plenty of pre orders abilities in. And she was informed that um, she could go through and order them ahead of time. Now, whenever she went to go through and do so, she had the experience of going through and trying to place the order, but they were all sold out online because they didn't have any ability whatsoever to go through and pre order the items because they were all sold out online, even though she was informed that she could go through and exclusively order them in store. She likes to order in store because it goes through and supports her, the store. It also goes through and helps her out with the things that she wants to go through and do. And um, this is something that she likes to do because she really wants to go through and support her store. So, whenever she was in the process of doing so, she called, she complained. She basically got told, yeah, we'll check and make sure that you can go through and do it. She spoke to someone, and yeah, we'll check and see. So part of the issue is that whenever you're calling and talking, you need to set things out. If you have any sort of reason why the case should be escalated, for example, you were promised something, they told you by having a certain membership type or providing an email address they're going to do, you need to give specifics and you need to give dates. The other thing that I personally like to do in this case was I went through and whenever my wife called in again to mention about her complaint about it this time, she mentioned that she had a particular reason. They promised her, they didn't follow through on their promise, and she felt like she was lied to. She then went mentioned various special circumstances that she has where she should have been able to have special consideration whenever doing so, and that's what made the lie dig in deeper. Afterwards, I went through and I called in about 2 weeks before the pre orders happened, and I mentioned to the phone rep that this is what's going on. Um, my wife had this reason why she went into the store, and she also had these various things going on for her, and she felt like she would receive some that she should be contacted back about this. Number one, I made sure I mentioned the contact. Number two, I made sure to mention why it was so important to do so. And number three, this is just something I personally did, is I gave it a personal touch. I talked to the person like he was a person. I wasn't angry at him. I asked for his name. I repeatedly used his name. In the first time, his name was Miguel. Well, with Miguel, we ended up talking back and forth, and he realized that I genuinely felt like this was the way it was, and he ended up promising he would go through and create a complaint. I specifically asked for a complaint, and I specifically outlined what I was looking for in the complaint. For example, if you think that you should receive monetary compensation or in store credit for one reason or another, talk to it, set it up in the complaint on what you're after. Is something you have to do. If you don't do this, they may just brush this off. So in this case, we ended up sitting there and creating this. I got a complaint number. I called back whenever they did this again. They did the exact same mistake, but this time in person in the store. And this time, because I empathized early on, I was able to go through and get them to agree to create this as a complaint that a district manager would go through and do. So keep in mind, complaints have certain levels. You've got your basic one, which was the first situation my wife went into, where they promised her a contact back if any more became available. They had the next level, which was basically a corporate complaint, and they had another level where they ended up going through and creating a complaint that would also be viewed by the district manager. So keep in mind, most reps get rushed off the phone, so they don't get any time to do things. If you want to save time, make sure to educate yourself on what is going on and see if you can go through and do things in order to have an easier, simpler experience with this. So, and it's not that you necessarily have to be angry during it. You can be professional but frustrated. So just keep those things in mind whenever you're calling in. Customer service people are people too, and they are not the people that are so much the ones causing the situation. They're just the ones who are reporting it to the people above. So treat them like people, treat them with extra care, and most of the time they'll treat you better because you're not being a jerk to them, which they probably have dealt with all day. One of the examples, the second rep that I talked to, his name was Daniel, gave was the fact that whenever Daniel was talking to me, one of the people, he figured out the reason why the person was being so rough is because the magazine that he was looking at, getting regular subscriptions from, ended up not being able to give them subscriptions anymore, like actual magazine, and the child had cancer. So detach whatever situation happened with it. Even though my wife spent 2 hours on the phone, I sat there and was professional with Daniel in order so that Daniel would have an easier time, and Daniel might go the extra mile for me once I started using his name, being empathetic, talking to him, treating him like a live person. And this is how I ended up going through and dealing with this situation. And I think that I'll have a very positive outcome from it. So far, I was able to go through and get a collector's edition for my wife. So all's good and ends well. Just make sure that you are going through and following these steps. If this sort of content interests you and you want to hear about my success stories with customer service, please go through and leave a like, comment about them, and I'll go through and see about making a few extras so that way you can see how the steps that I mentioned in some of my other videos actually go through and do. Remember, this is not legal or financial advice. This is just things that I personally do that have worked well for me. Anyway, I hope you have an amazing day and stay safe. Farewell.